Let's kick things off with a quote. Take a moment to write your name in the wet cement of life before you head to whatever is next. Wow, that's a profound little nugget from Dan Kennedy, host of the Moth podcast. And honestly, it perfectly sets up the emotional stakes for what we're looking at today. We're all just rushing through life at a million miles an hour. And storytelling, well, that's our way of leaving a mark. It's how we essentially say, hey, I was here, and this is what actually happened.
So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a seriously transformative guide, Storyworthy. Engage, teach, persuade, and change your life through the power of storytelling. And look, this isn't just about getting up on a stage under a spotlight. No, it's about fundamentally changing how you connect with the world around you. We're talking at the Thanksgiving table, in a stuffy boardroom, or even on a nerve-wracking first date.
All right, let's dive right in. The mastermind behind this book is Matthew Dix. He's a 36-time Moth Story Slam champion and a 5-time Grand Slam champion. So yeah, the guy knows what he's talking about. He's an absolute master at painting these vivid verbal canvases that literally change how his listeners see the world. But here's the best part. What this book promises isn't just a highlight reel of his talent. It's a precise deconstruction of the hidden architecture behind every well-told story, handing you the exact tools to do what he does. Let's hit Section 1, A Master Storyteller Emerges, starting at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. You see, despite all those shiny championships, Matt didn't exactly start out as some fearless public speaker. Actually, his origins are sweaty, totally nerve-wracking, and completely relatable to anyone who's ever been paralyzed by the thought of public speaking. Picture this. It's July 12, 2011 at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe in Manhattan. He's sitting in this insanely hot, crowded room that just reeks of stale beer. Hipsters are packed in everywhere, and he is absolutely terrified. He literally drops his name into a canvas tote bag, secretly praying it doesn't get pulled. But as he's sitting there, absorbing the incredible vulnerability of the other storytellers, something just clicks. He realizes his own life, a life he assumed was completely ordinary, is actually bursting with stories.
He realized he was sitting on an absolute gold mine of raw material. And honestly, just looking at the sheer absurdity of his life events proves it. I mean, his friends were constantly begging him to tell the story about the time he went headfirst through a windshield and basically died on the side of the road. Or, the time he accidentally flashed a 6th grade math class. Or when he was hired as a stripper for a McDonald's crew room. Now, I hear you. You're probably thinking, okay, well, I've never been a McDonald's stripper, so I guess I don't have any stories. But that is the exact opposite of Matt's point. His crucial takeaway is that every single one of us has a gold mine of raw material. We just haven't figured out how to dig it up yet.
Moving on to Section 2, Beyond Stand-Up Comedy, let's look at the true heart of storytelling. Right, so before we actually get to the how of finding your stories, we have to nail down what true storytelling actually is, and maybe more importantly, what it absolutely isn't. Going back to Dan Kennedy's foreword, he shed some fascinating light on this. You see, people constantly confuse storytelling with stand-up comedy, but they are playing completely different games. Comedy, it can be pretty adversarial, totally ego-driven, and built on this implicit heavy contract that says, you better make me laugh. True storytelling, though, is all about vulnerability. Kennedy compares it to a strange cross between therapy, rehab, and just hanging out after dinner with your closest friends. It completely bypasses all that aggressive razzle-dazzle of the comedy clubs and aims straight for the heart to build authentic connection. To quote Kennedy directly, telling stories about your life lets people know they're not alone. That's it right there. It's not about manipulating people's emotions, and it's definitely not about oversharing just to get a cheap shock reaction. It's about forging genuine, vulnerable emotional bonds. When you tell a story, those massive, scary things rattling around in your head, they suddenly get a lot smaller and way more surmountable simply because you're sharing them with others. All right, Section 3, the Storyworthy Roadmap. This is the finding, crafting, and telling phase. So how do we actually take that messy, chaotic, wet cement of our lives and shape it into something people actually want to listen to? Well, Matt gives us a highly actionable 3-part architecture. Step 1, finding your story. Step 2, crafting it. And Step 3, telling it. This methodology literally holds your hand from a completely blank page all the way to a live performance. Let's break these down, shall we? We kick things off with Part 1, which is entirely focused on finding your story. This is all about locating those hidden narrative gems buried in your everyday routine. Listen, you do not need to fly to space or get attacked by a great white shark to have a story-worthy life. Matt introduces a couple of game-changing concepts here to help you out. Two of the most practical are homework for life and the dinner test. Homework for life is this amazing daily practice. You literally just take 5 minutes at the very end of every single day to write down just one story-worthy moment. That's it. It actively trains your brain to notice and capture those fleeting, seemingly mundane details that actually carry a lot of weight. And then there's the dinner test, which asks a beautifully simple question. Is this a story you'd casually tell a friend over dinner? If the answer is yes, boom, it's story-worthy. Okay, so once you've mined that raw material, we move right into part 2, crafting your story. Now, this is where the magic really happens. This is the stage where the raw, kind of unstructured events of your Tuesday afternoon are actually sculpted into a compelling, captivating narrative arc. Matt brilliantly deconstructs how to build narrative stakes here. For instance, instead of just lazily connecting events with and then, he introduces the principle of but and therefore. This forces your story to actually have real consequences and forward momentum. He also lets us in on the 5 permissible lies. Basically, he explains that true storytelling actually allows for a few specific omissions or maybe merging a timeline or two, as long as it serves the deeper emotional truth of the narrative. Then there's the cinema of the mind. This is all about giving your listener just enough sensory detail to put them physically in the room with you. Oh, and here's a wild one. Did you know Jurassic Park wasn't actually a movie about dinosaurs? Yeah, it's actually a story about a man learning to want children. Matt uses this to show us that the core of any great story is always about human transformation, never just the external plot.
Which brings us to part 3, telling your story. You've found the gem, you've sculpted it perfectly, and now you actually have to deliver the goods. This section gets you ready for the actual performance, arming you with the specific linguistic and performative tools you need to absolutely captivate an audience.
One of the most absolutely crucial takeaways here is surprisingly simple. The present tense is king. Matt points out that storytelling, when it's done right, is essentially a form of time travel. By using the present tense, you aren't just recounting some old thing that happened to you in the past. You are actively transporting your audience back in time to experience it right alongside you, as it unfolds. You don't want to muck it up with past tense distance. You have to make it immediate, make them feel it right now. And that leads us to section 4, the ultimate superpower. This explores why we actually tell stories in the first place. Pulling all of this methodology together, Matt asks his readers a very direct question straight from chapter 23. And you know what? I want to pose it to you right now. Why did you read this book? Why are you even watching this explainer? When you really get down to it, what is the actual end goal of putting all this effort into learning how to tell a story? To become a superhero! Honestly, that is Matthew Dix's ultimate promise. By opening your mouth, getting out of your own head, and bravely sharing your vulnerable, authentic experiences, you invite a much deeper connection with others, and honestly, with yourself too. You literally transform the everyday into the extraordinary. You become a superhero in your own life and in the lives of everybody listening to you. So get out there, start finding your stories, and take a moment to write your name in that wet cement. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.